you serious? Are you serious? I'm trying to rest. I'm trying to rest my jaw, but I have to break in again. Israel Hall was just on the phone with me. Are you serious? This is crazy. This is the Feast of Tabernacles. This is the final day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Tomorrow is Celebration Day. And this was a historic day, October 13, 2025. This goes down in history. When you get 20 nations to gather in Egypt to sign a peace agreement to bring peace to the Middle East. Now, I know there'll never be real peace till the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, till he comes, there'll never be peace. But according to prophecy, there will be a covenant with many that will be signed. And then later, at some point, the Antichrist confirms it. Now, I've always believed that means possibly the Antichrist is there present at the signing. Doesn't mean he has to be, but it does mean he has to confirm it or help execute it. President Trump is not the Antichrist. I mean, he's out of the 20 nations that are there, leaders, he's the last guy there that is an Antichrist. He is pro-Christian, pro-Israel, pro-peace. He wants to work with everybody. He is not an Antichrist. But an Antichrist could have been there among that crowd. I'm not saying that today's signing was the covenant with many. I don't know. But I'm not saying it's not either. Now, I've been talking for a long time, for almost 21 years now, ever since Apophis was discovered by NASA in 2004. And we now know that Apophis, the god of chaos, the Egyptian god of chaos, Apophis, or Apophis, is coming, headed right toward Earth. It is going to scrape past us unless it hits us. And even if it misses us, it's bringing a lot of debris with it. And we are going to go through that debris trail, and we may get hit with maybe one, maybe two companion rocks. If you read Revelation chapter 8, it tells you that the earth gets hit with two deep impacts. One hits the oceans, wipes out a third of the ships on the ocean, and one hits the land, bringing with it radiation that poisons the water, and a lot of people die. It could be that Apophis is that wormwood prophecy. Now, I have a connection with Dr. Thomas Horn, who went on to be with the Lord. And that is in a book he wrote about the Vatican, he predicted that Pope Benedict would not die, but would resign. And that would be the first pope to do that in 600 years. I wrote a book called Jerusalem Jihad, in which I predicted in this novel that also that Pope Benedict XVI would resign and not die. And then that's exactly what happened. Both myself and Thomas Horn were correct. I've been saying that Apophis is huge and could be the wormwood effect. Thomas Horn, Dr. Thomas Horn has been saying that. Of course, he died. He's went on to be with the Lord. What I didn't know is that Dr. Thomas Horn believed that it's possible that if Apophis or Apophis, if it is the wormwood prophecy, and he wrote a book called that, The Wormwood Prophecy, if it is, then he said, then that would happen at the midway point of the tribulation period, possibly. And he said, if that's the case, then go back 3.5 years, because Apophis is coming Friday the 13th, April the 13th, 2029. So if you go back 3.5 years exactly. You know what day that is? Today, October 13th, 2025. If Apophis is the wormwood prophecy that hits at the midway point, then today would start the tribulation period. I'm not saying it is, I'm just telling you. And what's wild about that is the late Dr. Irvin Baxter told me. Matter of fact, I was interviewing him for a television show in 2018 when he said, and you can go on my YouTube channel and find that video, where he said, when you see the world signing a peace covenant for the Middle East, and if this is the covenant with many, then that's the day that the tribulation period starts. Well, today, 20 nations signed a peace treaty for the Middle East. Today, the same day that Thomas Horn said could be the start of the I'm going to play that. Can I play Thomas Horn for you? So I'm not saying today is the start of the tribulation, because we're all here. We have been raptured. I don't know when we're going to get raptured. I've always said that. I'm not going to just sit here and I don't know. And I'm not saying this is the covenant with many today, but what are the odds that 20 nations in the Middle East signed a peace deal, which includes Israel, on October 13th, exactly to the day that Thomas Horn said could be the day it starts? I want you to hear. This is real Paul Begley technology here. Because I'm not in the studio. I probably should have went there and did it. I'm telling you, my jaw is killing me. Listen to this. Here is Thomas Horn. It's about 2 minutes.
The new studio and the new programs that we're filming over there, our very first shows are dealing with this question, how the Jewish feasts are connected to the arrival of Apophis. Well, I happen to be doing programs last year in the old studio with Derek Gilbert. And while we were talking about Apophis and the wormwood prophecy, I made the case that if Apophis is the fulfillment of the wormwood prophecy, Revelation chapter 8, that would happen in the middle of the Great Tribulation period. And then I made this point. I said, so if you are, and most evangelical Christians, whether they know it or not, are dispensationalists who believe in a 7-year tribulation period, if that's what you believe, and if Apophis is wormwood, then with that being in the middle of the tribulation period, you would count backward 3.5 years to arrive at the beginning of what is called the 7-year Great Tribulation period. Well, while I was saying that, Derek and Sharon, who were interviewing me, Derek is sitting across and he's got his iPad or whatever it is he's using, his MacBook, and he had opened a Jewish calendar, a Hebrew calendar, on his device. And he went 3.5 years earlier, and he literally turned pale, because 3.5 years earlier, before the impact of Apophis, to the day is the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, we probably don't have enough time for me to explain all the ways in which end times prophecy experts connect the Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Trumpets with the beginning of the 7-year tribulation period and the second coming of Jesus Christ. But just suffice to say this. It not only falls into the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles, but literally on the 7th day of the Feast of Tabernacles in 2025. So just 5 years from now. Why is that important? Because the 7th day of the Feast of Tabernacles is when the ancient Hebrews, get this, sacrificed 7 bulls in commemoration of God delivering them from all of the gods of the nations, but in particular, the gods of Egypt, and in particular, delivering them from Apophis, the ancient Egyptian god of chaos. Literally, that day in antiquity is 3.5 years to the day from when Apophis is going to strike the earth, is when the Hebrews will be celebrating how God in antiquity delivered them from Apophis. So is God going to deliver his own people 3.5 years earlier? 10 days before that is the Feast of Trumpets, which is also connected to the second coming of Christ. Why? Because the Apostle Paul drew a parallel to the Feast of Trumpets when he said, at last trump, so during the Feast of Trumpets. So there you have it, folks. Okay, let's see if we got this right. Dr. Baxter says when they sign the covenant with many, that starts the 7-year tribulation period. He told me that in 2018. Thomas Horn says, if Apophis or Apophis is the wormwood prophecy, then you count back 3.5 years and you're starting the tribulation period, which is October 13th, 2025, today. And if that's the case, what day did it fall on? Today, the 7th day of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is today. And when you go back and look at ancient Israeli history, today is the day that Israel defeated, God delivered Israel from the Egyptians, ancient god of chaos, Apophis. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say other than what are the odds that 3.5 years from Apophis is the Feast of Tabernacles, day 7? What are the odds that this is the day that 20 nations in Egypt, by the way, sign a covenant, a peace deal with many nations? 20. I'm not saying it is the covenant with many in Daniel, but I'm just saying, are you serious? This is are you? That's Thomas Horn. He said, Thomas Horn did that interview 5 years ago. Dr. Baxter said it was going to happen 7 years ago. And here we are today. I'm going to say this. If you want to give your Feast of Tabernacle offering today, might be a good idea. Go to my website at paulbegleyprophecy.com. Make that donation. If you give $55 or more, I already said this last night, I'll send you 3 flash drives. One is my album, Harmonize and Prophesy. One of them is an interview I did with Stephen Boyles, who died during COVID and went to heaven for 45 days before being brought back, and they brought him back. And he tells y'all, and it's called The Heavenly Encounter. You can listen to, you can watch that whole interview. And one of the flash drives is our webinar we did called Aliens and Fallen Angels. I'll give you all 3 of those for any love gift above $55 and more or more. Okay. If you haven't given your Feast of Tabernacle offering, today is October 13th, the 7th day of this feast. God bless you. Thank you for watching. And I just got to say it again. Thank Israel Hall for sending me this information. I already knew in my head, but I didn't know that on this day, Trump, and that doesn't make Trump the Antichrist. Don't even think that. Of the 20 leaders that were there today that signed that, he is the last guy of the 20 that would be Antichrist. But it's possible the Antichrist was there. I hate to say this, but Dr. Irvin Baxter told me in 2018 that he had a list of 10 people that could be the Antichrist. And I said, well, who's your number 1? And he said, I'm not saying he's the Antichrist, but I'm just telling you, my number 1 was French President Emmanuel
Macron. And guess who was there today? Emmanuel Macron. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? Are you serious?